There is a voice inside your head that decides every victory and every defeat you will ever experience. It whispers when the world is silent. It speaks when no one else can hear. And whether you realize it or not, that voice is writing the story of your life in real time. Every achievement, every failure, every hesitation, every triumph, all of it begins and ends with what that voice says to you. Let me ask you something dangerous. When you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, what does that voice say? Does it tell you that you are capable, powerful, unstoppable, or does it whisper 1,000 tiny doubts that slowly poison your courage? Because that right there is the difference between the person who builds their destiny and the person who watches life happen to them. The voice inside your head is not your enemy, but it can become one if you do not learn to master it. Most people spend their lives being led by that voice instead of leading it. They mistake the sound of fear for the sound of reason. They listen when it says, be careful, don't risk it, play it safe. And slowly, imperceptibly, their life becomes smaller and smaller until the walls of their comfort zone become the boundaries of their world. What no one ever told you is this: that voice will believe whatever you train it to believe. It has no moral compass, no loyalty, no wisdom of its own. It is an echo of the thoughts you repeat most often. If you feed it limitation, it will speak limitation. If you feed it courage, it will speak strength. The question is, who's been feeding it? Think back on your childhood, the words you heard, the failures you internalized, the opinions of others that left scars. Those memories became foundations, and from those foundations, your inner voice learned its vocabulary. It picked up the language of fear, the dialect of doubt, the accent of insecurity, and now it speaks to you using those words, not because they're true, but because they're familiar. But hear me carefully. Familiarity is not truth. Just because that voice has been with you your whole life does not mean it must stay the same. You are not the thoughts that pass through your mind. You are the one who decides which thoughts stay and which leave. You are the author, not the echo, the master, not the puppet. The tragedy is that most people never realize they have power over that voice. They spend decades negotiating with it, reasoning with it, obeying it, instead of commanding it. They forget that every great victory in life begins with a single decision. The decision to stop believing every thought that weakens you. You see, your mind is like fertile soil. The voice you hear every day is simply the crop of what you've planted. If you plant fear, scarcity, and complaint, the harvest will be frustration and failure. But if you plant faith, vision, and discipline, your harvest becomes success itself. The soil never decides. It only grows what it's given. So, if you're tired of hearing the voice of doubt, stop feeding it. When it whispers, you can't, answer, watch me. When it says, you're not enough, declare, I am more than I've ever allowed myself to be. When it reminds you of every past mistake, remind it of every lesson those mistakes taught you. You are not the product of your past. You are the architect of your next decision. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But most people never reach that potential because their inner voice stops them before they even try. They can conceive it, yes, but they do not believe it. That's where the war is fought, not in the world around you, but in the 6 inches between your ears. Let me tell you a secret that the most successful, fulfilled people in history all understood. They trained their inner voice to serve them. They conditioned it every single day. They repeated words of power until belief became natural. They spoke life into their doubts until those doubts lost their sting. They didn't wait to feel confident. They spoke confidence into existence. The voice inside your head will either be your greatest servant or your fiercest saboteur. It will build dreams or destroy them. And the terrifying part is that both versions sound exactly like you, which means you must learn to distinguish between truth and fear. When you hear that quiet whisper that says, you're not ready, that's not truth. That's comfort's disguise. Truth says, you may not be ready, but you can prepare, you can grow, you can become. Take a moment right now to imagine a life where your inner voice is your ally, where every thought that enters your mind pushes you forward instead of pulling you back. Imagine waking up each day hearing, you can, you must, you will. That state of thinking is not heaven, it's training. You don't stumble into it, you design it. It is forged by repetition, rebuilt each morning, reinforced with every act of discipline. Each time you choose belief over doubt, you're reprogramming the voice. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you teach it respect. Each time you act in spite of fear, you teach it obedience. That's how masters are made, not by banishing fear, but by teaching their mind who's in charge. If you could listen inside the heads of people who achieve great things, you'd hear something fascinating. Their inner conversation is different. They speak to themselves with authority. When doubt arises, they interrupt it immediately. They replace "what if I fail" with "what if I succeed?" and "I can't" with "I will find a way." Over time, these commands become truth because the mind, given a firm order, finds a way to obey. Here's what most people forget. The voice inside your head is watching your every move. It pays attention to how often you honor your word. When you say, "I'm going to change," and don't, the voice learns you're weak. When you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and you don't, the voice starts mocking you. But when you act with conviction, even in small things, that voice begins to respect you again. Slowly, the tone changes. The words become sharper, cleaner, stronger. Instead of saying, "I can't," it says, "Let's go." That transformation isn't magic. It's the reward of consistency. And if you stay consistent long enough, something miraculous happens. Your voice becomes unstoppable. It stops arguing. It starts guiding. It stops doubting. It starts declaring. The noise fades. Clarity takes over. And you begin to live with a sense of inner certainty no one can shake. Here's the truth. The voice inside your head has been trying to protect you. That's where it started. Every ounce of fear it speaks is just a distorted form of love. It wants you to avoid pain. But comfort and safety were never the goal of your life. You were not born to hide. You were born to evolve. And to evolve, you must outgrow the version of that voice that still believes you need protecting. So start speaking to yourself differently. When your voice says you failed, remind it that failure is not a verdict, it's feedback. When it says the mountain is too high, remind it that every summit begins with a single step. When it says you're alone, remind it that your dreams, your heart, and your faith have been walking with you from the beginning. The voice inside your head is powerful enough to create worlds or destroy them. It's been doing that in your life all along. But today, you get to choose which world you're building. Will it be one of fear or one of faith? One of doubt or one of destiny? From this day forward, refuse to let that inner voice speak without supervision. Guide it, shape it, command it. When it starts drifting into fear, steer it toward possibility. When it starts worrying, redirect it to gratitude. When it starts doubting, flood it with the memory of how far you've already come. Because once you learn to lead that voice, you will never again be led by it. You will have mastered the one conversation that determines every other outcome in your life. And that, my friend, is the day you stop existing as a prisoner of your own thoughts and begin living as the master of your mind.